This is behind the bit. This is behind the bit. This is behind the bit.
A very serious retrospective series on some of your favorite Dan LeBatard show with Stugotz bits.
Segue nicely here from a nice heartfelt conversation to a psychic.
Wow.
Natalie Young is joining us. Natalie, are you with us?
Hi, Natalie.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. Thank you for joining us. The reason we wanted you on is that this is airing from 4 to 5 a.m., which I consider to be the dead hour, right in between late night and first light. Hearing me speak and seeing me, are you able to form any sort of a indication of the type of person I am, whether I'm doomed, whether I'm about to hit the lottery? Like, what can you tell about me just from having met me?
I just feel like you're a very strong-minded person, and usually what you put your mind to, you can almost always make happen. Lately, though, I think there's been sometimes a little bit of confusion, questioning yourself, should I, shouldn't I? Is this the right move? Is this not the right move? So you question yourself just a little bit sometimes.
Wow, that's a lot of baggage to unpack there for me. I haven't slept in 3.5 months. February was probably the last time I really got a good night's sleep. And
That
right
might
now,
have to. And you need to change your underwear. I feel something about if you change your underwear more often,
Really?
then I think that might help.
Okay,
Especially with an interview. I don't know if you're meeting people, like communication better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
But,
say you haven't slept in 3 months. It sounds like you're currently sleeping.
you know what? I can't
There you go.
disguise doing this at 4 a.m. It's tough.
10 more minutes. Let's go. Finish strong.
What do you see as the future of the Dan LeBatard Show with Stugotz as it sets sail in its new partnership with DraftKings?
I feel very positive about it. I feel extremely, I think it's going to go quickly and go well and just start like exploding. I just
Great.
feel good with it.
Great.
How tired were you in this clip?
Okay, first of all, I had to thank, in retrospect, I had to thank the Dan LeBatard Show for giving my podcast that coveted 4 to 5 a.m. slot on Freedumb. It was what everybody wanted. You know, you go in the air at 4 a.m., you're golden. So thanks for that.
I don't know how tired Greg was. I know how tired I was because I was hours 16 in a marathon. I did not sleep at all that day. That was from Freedumb. And to truly appreciate how weird Greg's portion of Freedumb was, you almost have to watch the other 23 hours because it did legitimately happen in the wee hours of the morning. And his approach was pretty straightforward. Like, he came in with a plan, which is something that I appreciated. I was very curious at the direction that he took it, but it was so public access TV that it ended up being like my favorite part of that entire 24-hour marathon. It's really like one of the favorite things that we've ever done.
We also had
Belly button doctor.
a belly button doctor from Tupelo, Mississippi, in a wood-paneled room. We had a lot of fun stuff going on.
To look at your belly button.
Yeah, I still have my protruding belly button there. It's also not a health issue, although it's still protruding. I forget what they call it.
You can show the audio. You can show them if you
No,
want. Show me your belly button.
let's not do that. I'd actually forgotten what the psychic said, so it was fun to hear her again.
Whose idea was to have Greg interview a psychic?
Well, it wasn't my idea to have Greg interview a psychic. My idea was to give Greg an hour, and that hour be at an impossible time in the morning, because I wanted to highlight several of the talents that were either a part of our network or within our family. So Greg was very receptive to being given the shittiest time slot, which I loved. But in terms of like the production and what he was going to talk about, credit to him. He constructed the entire hour, which is all I wanted. I wanted Greg to do whatever he wanted for an hour, and I love the results.
Was Greg stalling for time?
That was Greg's bizarre cadence. It was early. We were all so tired. Yeah, it was just a tired Greg Cote just meandering through an hour with a psychic, with very strange guests. And like I said, it was a very public access TV. It was kind of like the Ed Wood portion of Freedom. And I look back on that fondly.
I'm glad that in that clip, I called out your lack of energy because it's all I was thinking about the whole time of how tired you sounded.
That's why I always tell anybody who's listening to the podcast, whether my show or the LeBatard show, please listen to it at 1.5 speed because I sound much more listenable. I sound much younger when I talk faster. Somebody should invent something.
All right, we got
that like a voice, something you put on your voice that makes you sound like you're talking faster, like a 1.5. But that's a tangent.
So, Greg, she got a little cheeky with you there with the underwear thing.
The underwear reference came out of nowhere. I don't know what that meant. You know, psychics. I'm not disparaging psychics, but I think
no, I feel like you're about to.
I can also say it's inaccurate. You know, I'm a serial underwear changer. I go through a lot of underwear. So on that count, she was wrong, but we're still happy to have had her on.
I feel like you go through a normal amount of underwear.
Well, what's a normal
I feel like
amount?
you just overstated your underwear.
What's a normal amount?
You know, 1 a day.
Like a vitamin.
Why did you guys do Freedom?
We wanted to do something big to announce our partnership with DraftKings, and we hadn't been as visible. We'd popped up occasionally on a Twitch stream here or there, but the visual component of what we had been doing had been away for several months. So we wanted a big way to reintroduce our visual component and kick off our formal partnership with DraftKings and announce Meadowlark as a company with something big.
It was us filling 24 hours of content, and like my dad said, he was handed the glorious 4 to 5 o'clock hour. So we just thought, there's gonna be no one really watching at this time. Let's have fun with it. So we leaned into my dad's cyst above his belly button. We leaned into my dad had the idea of the dead hour. So we were just like, what's the creepiest person we could have on? Psychic, grave digger. We just were like, let's get crazy. And one of our producers found this lady, and I honestly had forgotten most of like the stuff she said. It was pretty hilarious that apparently the LeBatard show is going to explode soon. So we have that coming.
Didn't Freedom get weird in the late night hour?
That's a whole nother thing. Yes, there was a guy, because we had a ton of crew in for, we brought in a whole bunch of crew. So there was dozens of people that we didn't really know that were working this event. So there was one time when we were just kind of doing our show, and there was a guy standing in the shipping container for a good 3 or 4 hours. And like no one, because there were so many people coming around, no one really acknowledged it until a few hours in, people in the back were like, who's this guy standing right there? And then in hindsight, he was wearing thong sandals. That should have probably thrown off.
There was a dude that we had a major security breach, but there were a lot of new faces with Freedom, a lot of new video production people that we were using, and I guess someone took advantage of the fact that if you just kind of look official, you can maybe bypass the first level of security. Thankfully, in that moment, he was chill.
We've upped our security, so don't try that now, folks.
I don't believe it was my idea to go for 24 hours straight. I think in the moment, I was excited about the challenge, but after it was over, I agreed that we should never, ever do this again, and we haven't.
It was a horrible idea. I mean, it was, you know, armed with hindsight, 24 hours, live radio, bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your part was fantastic.
You
bailed us out, Greg.
You know what? I'm so honored that they chose my 4 to 5 hour for this bit here. What do you call it?
Behind the bit.
You got it.
Yes.
You nailed it. Behind the bit, because it was fun. I mean, at the time, it seemed like super horrible to have to do this at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, it was very spoofy, very tongue-in-cheek.
Mm-hmm.
The psychic was great, but I think the belly button doctor in the wood-paneled den in Tupelo, Mississippi, may have actually been my favorite from that hour.
I am laughing because you and I were talking during the break, and you have a never-ending quest of getting Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Wow. No, I do.
It's a crusade, man.
It's almost to crusade level, and I'm a voting member of the BBWAA.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit to say. You know, I can use an ounce of influence to try to get this done. I think it's terrible that he wasn't allowed on the ballot while he was living, but now posthumously, I think it would be fair to do it. I'm not saying he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Let him in. I'm saying let him be on the ballot. Let the voters decide whether he has paid enough penance, whether his lifetime ban should end when his life did. and now he should have a chance, and I really believe that.
Is this the extent of your crusade, just that?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to...
saying this,
I'm not going to rent a billboard.
All right, because you said that it was never ending. I was just wondering exactly, because at first I hear of it, but I'm not super plugged in all the time to the happenings of Greg Cote, so I was curious.
We could probably get Dan to pay for a billboard for you.
That's not enough
like.
for the billboard.
Okay, let's go for it.
But
Walter Mondale.
Who did he run against?
Reagan, for Reagan's second term.
He voted Reagan.
I think I voted Mondale.
Really?
And
What?
I regretted it. Yeah.
He only won one state. It was his home state of Minnesota, and he won it by 4,000 votes. Other than that, it was a clean sweep for Reagan.
Yeah, I regretted that because I actually thought, as Republicans go, I actually thought Reagan was a pretty good president.
do you care that you're going against Pete Rose's wishes in your crusade to get him on the ballot? We had him on the show. We played a clip.
Yeah.
Moments after news circulated that he had passed.
Yeah,
and
he didn't mean it.
Do we have that clip so
That's
the
the thing you
audience
say.
can hear
Well, he just it's something for the living.
Right.
He thought
It
it's
should have
something for
been.
your family to enjoy, and he's like, don't do that to me when I'm gone because I get nothing out of it.
Yeah, my crusade, a little bit selfish, that attitude.
Your crusade died when he died?
No, my crusade goes on.
Right.
Against Pete's wishes, apparently.
Yes.
I want him on the ballot.
Yeah, but I also think that's kind of BS. Like, okay, make a lot of other people feel good, but the guy that deserved to feel best about it isn't here. So
I think there's a bigger vantage point, a bigger view than that. I think the view is baseball history and what's fair and what isn't. And I've always said, as a voter, that I think if you let somebody in, like a Pete Rose, like a Roger Clemens, that the reason it took them a while to get in should be on that bronze plaque for eternity. If Rose ever gets in, it should absolutely say that he had this betting scandal, that it kept him out for years, that he deserved to be kept out for years, but then in 2025, this happened and he finally got in. I think all of that should be laid out on the bronze plaque.
Are you making it into the Hall of Fame, though, if you're not there physically, if you're dead, right? Does that really feel like making it into the Hall of Fame? Mike is right. Like, you want to do these things when you're living.
True, but and they should have. But this is a little bit of a chance to right a wrong.
Yes.
And, throughout sports history.
No, but right the wrong when he's alive to enjoy it.
But there have been plenty of people posthumously inducted into halls of fame throughout sports. So he would be one. And it's a shame that they didn't forgive him. MLB's inability to forgive followed him to his grave. And I think that's a terrible thing. But there is a chance on some small measure to right a wrong here.
Let's play that sound of Mike Ryan and Pete Rose.
in the future, several decades from now, let's say Major League Baseball then makes the decision after Pete Rose is long gone to enshrine him in Major League in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. How would you feel about that?
Well, that would, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to go in the Hall of Fame because I think the Hall of Fame, okay, and don't get me wrong, the Hall of Fame is for two things. It's one for the player, and it's three things. His family, okay, his fans, and his teammates and everything that was everybody who was associated.
That's more
with
than three.
It don't help me when I'm 6 feet under. How the hell is that going to help anybody?
They couldn't hide.
I mean, I still go out. Today, I'll go out and try to sell the game of baseball. And I'm not even in the game of baseball. But you guys will agree, my name is synonymous with the game of baseball. I have all the records. You know, and that's all baseball is statistics. It's all about statistics. All you guys on TV talk about how many home runs you got, how many RBIs you got, how many runs you got, how many gold gloves you win, how many MVPs you win, you know, how many World Series you play in. Those are all questions that I can answer with no hesitation at all.
Greg, it seemed by your facial reactions there that you don't buy what Pete Rose is selling.
No, I mean, he's saying that as a living person still trying to be inducted, still hoping that baseball forgives and changes its mind, in effect. But in terms of this is for the player and his family, how about this is for millions of Reds fans who maybe appreciated your career?
Are you
and
talking
were in
to the
Hall of
clip?
Fame?
It looks like you're talking to the clip.
Pete's being selfish then.
I don't think he's being selfish. I think he's being unrealistic, and I don't believe he believed what he said.
All right. Well, We have a little bit of a backlog here in terms of seances. We still need to talk to Don Shula to remove the Dolphins curse. You said you were interested in doing that with the medium.
Yeah,
so we
we're
do a
working on
seance.
it. Yeah.
Is it in poor taste to try to reach out to Pete so soon after his passing? Should we give him time to like reacclimate himself to the afterlife? What do you think?
I don't know the statute of limitations on that. Like when one passes away, is one instantly eligible for a seance? Or is there a period of time, like you have to serve a year underground, so to speak,
right,
before you then become eligible to contact through a seance? I honestly don't know the rules on that.
Well, here's the thing. So Pete voluntarily agreed to be put on the ineligible list because he thought that a year from when he voluntarily agreed to be ineligible, he could potentially be reinstated. Now, that never happened. So you're wondering if there's such a list in the afterlife as well, that you have a year that you need to get reacclimated and then you can be reached out to.
I do wonder that. And I have an answer for people who say, well, he agreed to a lifetime ban. Yes, he did. And sometimes criminals who do far worse crimes and sins than Pete Rose ever did are sentenced to life. And sometimes, for whatever reason, that sentence is commuted and they're eligible for parole. In effect, I believe Pete Rose should have been paroled late in his life.
Well,
and
he had other issues, too.
He was accused of other crimes.
I understand.
You understand that.
I feel like
and
we
still,
should mention.
Standard seance is a year after you die.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Is it?
Well, I looked it up.
How are we talking about this before we're talking about any of the MLB playoff games that actually happened yesterday?
Well, it's Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle.
Yeah.
Big win for the
How
Yanks.
did this come up?
I don't know. It came up during. Was it a big win for the Yanks?
Yeah, ALCS. That's a big win.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I guess. I'm very excited about the Mets. Lindor has become one of the most popular figures.
Let me ask Jeremy real quick. Jeremy, you like baseball. Is that a big win?
I don't know if it is.
No, just nod yes or no. Yeah, he says it's a big win.
I don't know. It's not that big of a win. It's game one of the ALCS.
Stugotz also said he'd rather the Jets win than the Mets yesterday.
You know, everyone thought the Dodgers game one was a big win. You know what the Mets did the very next day? Less than 24 hours later, they came back and they had a big win. That's all I'm saying.
I think at this stage, they're all big.
They're all big wins and big losses.
I feel strongly about this.
How in retrospect, Stugotz, are you grading yesterday? Because you said headed into yesterday, it could potentially be one of the biggest days of your life, happiest days of your life.
Yep.
And then given the option, you said you'd rather the Jets win than the Mets win. Now the Jets lost, but the Mets won. So how are we feeling?
But the Islanders won at Colorado.
They did. It started off as an A with the Mets winning that game against the Dodgers. I would say about halftime of the Jets-Bills game, it went from like an A down to a B because the game was still very much in doubt.
Halftime was the Hail Mary.
It was. I know. It was a C+ before the Hail Mary. I upgraded it to a B once they converted the Hail Mary. And then it went down in totality because I did want the Jets to win over the Mets. When the night was over, it went down to a C-. But then they signed and traded for Devontae Adams, and I'm right back to an A. Wow. In fact, it's an A+. I would say the totality of yesterday and half of today, okay? I am factoring in half of today, A+. A+ for New York.
Wow.
I got a loss, that's fine, but I got a wide receiver.
Right. Plus, you got the Liberty evening the WNBA finals.
And that as well,
that was Sunday. That doesn't count. We were just talking about Monday.
Matty Barzal got a goal.
Mm-hmm. Listen, again, I'm giving it an A+. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I got an Islanders victory. I got a wide receiver and a Mets game 2 much needed victory. So I feel good.
Are you hitting the panic button if you're the Avalanche?
Yes.
I mean, they're going to get some guys back. You got to think, but I mean, top 6 is not what it used to be.
No.
How about Pete Alonso?
What about him?
Polar bear.
That run.
What about it?
Did you see it?
Did you watch? Do you watch the Mets? Do you
Why
actually
are
watch
you guys focused on Peter Alonso and the run? Lindor hit a home run.
Why do you call him Peter?
Well, because
that's his name.
His friends call him Peter.
His mama call him Peter.
I mean, what do you want me to call him?
I thought it was Pete. No?
It's Peter.
Most people call him Pete.
Yeah. Well, most people call him Polar Bear. But I am more focused on the Lindor home run and the fact that the Mets lineup is so good that they intentionally walked Lindor to get to Vientos, I think, and he had a grand slam against the Dodgers. So you want me to focus on Peter Alonso's run? No. I focus on home runs.
You know what Lindor's nickname should be?
What, Frankie?
The Chocolatier.
I don't think that should be his nickname.
Why not?
I'm going to start calling him that. I will.
Yeah, thank you.
Chocolatier.
I am worried about Billy.
Are you
because
worried about Pete Alonso tweaking his oblique
No,
late
I'm
in
not.
the game?
I'm not worried about anything. I'm worried about you because you keep whispering gambling advice into my headsets.
What?
Billy doesn't think I know what happened towards the end of the game.
Wait, Pete Alonso is hurt?
Yes.
Is he?
Yeah. Hurt his paw.
Wait, what's happening? Like, what's happening?
His dad?
Is he actually hurt?
Stugotz isn't worried about the injury. So.
I'm not even worried about baseball. I mean,
Exactly.
got a wide receiver.
He hurt his oblique, you were saying?
paw.
I'm not
His
seeing,
paw.
we got
Yes.
it, yeah.
Pull it
not
back.
seeing that. Not seeing that.
I am concerned about Billy because Billy keeps, and he's never done that. I've known Billy for a long time. He never gives me or asks me for gambling advice, but he peppers me all day today in my headset, asking me my thoughts on the Patriots taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, which brings us to Against the Spread.
I don't understand how Stugotz was concerned about an injury that didn't actually
Yeah, it didn't
happen.
happen.
You can tell me anything at this point. I got a wide receiver.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Manny Barzal.
I got Devontae, man.
That's right. It's time for
Against the
Spread.
Best wide receiver we've had since Al Toon.
And it's brought to you by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you're going to hear all about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Roy, start us off.
All right, we got. I'm sorry, Mike. You were going to say something?
He's not even the best wide receiver on his own team right now.
All right, we got Guardians and Yankees today. I can tell you that the Guardians have won 9 consecutive Tuesday road games. So I had to get that word stat out there.
Really?
It's baseball, right?
Right, that trend.
Yeah,
Write that down.
The Guardians in their last 6 games against the American League East, all the games have gone under on the total run line, and Greg Cote has allowed 5 or more hits in his last 4 playoff appearances. So I'm going to go with the Guardians, who are underdogs in this game. They're underdogs in this game by a run and a half against the spread.
Against the spread.
Jess, what do you got?
Well, last week I had Purdue not covering. I had Illinois covering Purdue 19 points and ended up being a 1-point game in overtime just to spite me. So I'm going to go with another spite pick. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. They're going to win. They're going to cover 1.5 against the Steelers on Sunday Night Football just to spite me again.
Against the spread.
Against the spread.
So win-win for you. Well done.
Mike.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's how you do it.
There's a couple emotional games on the NHL docket tonight. You have Columbus hosting the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, their first home game of the season after the tragedy that fell upon the Gaudreau family. I look for Columbus to hang in that game, but also the Tampa Bay area affected by the most recent hurricane. They beat the Carolina Hurricanes in their first game of the season. They're at home taking on a Vancouver Canucks team that is traveling across the country. So let's lay that puck line for Tampa Bay. That has already shown you they can do the emotional thing. So let's take them at home minus 1.5 plus 165. I'm taking the Lightning against the spread.
Billy, bring us hope.
I'm conflicted on this one, Stugotz, and as he mentioned, I was talking to him throughout Beyond the Bit because I had 2 games that I had my eye on. I had the Patriots plus 5.5 at the Jaguars in London.
Wow.
Now, this past weekend, the Jaguars did not look good, but they are in their second home. They were on the road in London, but now they're at home in London, and they're hosting the Patriots. Drake May came in last week, and the question now is, Drake maybe or Drake maybe not?
Good question.
He looked like maybe last week. Now, he had a couple interceptions, but he also had a dime that looked like an incredible pass to Keyshawn Boutte. It was the longest air pass that they've had in 3 seasons. Some of interception, a little bit of bad luck. But plus 5.5, they have to go across the pond to get reacclimated there. I'm not sure. Then I was looking at the Lions, plus 2.5 against the Vikings. Vikings are undefeated. Lions looked great last week. Now, they lost Aiden Hutchinson. How is that going to impact them? I don't know. Is the team going to rally
make the
around?
pick!
I'm sorry.
He's rolling,
Sometimes
Roy.
I give some information, then I don't give enough information.
Sometimes you give information about an injury that's just made up.
Well, you know what?
Aiden Hutchinson is actually hurt.
That's
though.
He's actually
that one's
injured,
legit.
yeah.
I saw that
Actual,
one.
yeah.
I saw that
Hutchinson
one
got
happen.
injured. Yeah, he got
Man,
hurt.
hurt
Out for the year.
Peter Alonso, not so much.
No.
I'm going to take the Patriots plus 5.5
Paw.
against the Jaguars in London.
Yeah.
You guys hate information? I don't understand. We're trying to, guys. There's a responsibility here.
Yes.
People, if they're listening to us, they're you know, spending their hard-earned money on this. We owe it to them to put some effort into this.
You know what? I appreciate you.
Yeah,
To at least sound like we know what we're talking about.
Seconds removed from you saying Pete Alonso hurt his opponent.
Well, that was a little tricky
His
situation because Stugotz said he was watching the game, so we were testing, and then his response to the injury is like, I know what happened. I saw the injury.
Yeah. Here's what I know. This is what I know happened yesterday in the game. The Mets went long ball a couple of times. They won the game. We move on to game 3. That's it. I do like baseball. I'm watching baseball now. I haven't watched baseball during the regular season. I didn't watch baseball during the regular season. I'm not going to be criticized for not watching baseball during the regular season.
Did you watch it yesterday?
And I'm not going to be told that I'm jumping on the bandwagon of my New York Mets, who I've been a fan of since 1981.
Well, hold on a second. Can you say I did not watch this team the entire regular season, but I will not be accused of jumping on the bandwagon by following them in the postseason?
I have been a fan for 40 years of this team. If I take a regular season off, big deal.
Sounds like
they have taken several regular seasons off, and I'm still there every single year rooting for that team.
You can't say that you've been a fan for 40 years, though. You've been a fan for 38 years because you haven't watched them over the last 2.
Just because you don't watch doesn't mean you're not a fan.
Correct.
I hate
Great
that.
point. Yeah,
I mean, I hate that. Just because I don't watch all the games means I'm not a fan. Just because I don't watch any of the games, I'm not a fan. I mean, I watch the games that matter. And in baseball, these are the games that matter.
You're a casual fan.
I'm a casual fan at this point.
You're a casual. There you go.
I'm a casual Mets fan.
You're a casual.
I have earned the right to be a casual Mets fan.
When do the games start counting? Like, when do they matter? Because yesterday you seemed like you were a little half in, half out. Like, now, game 3 of the NLCS. Game 3 when we turn it on?
Game 3 matters.
All right.
Yeah. Game 1s don't matter to me.
Not even clinching a playoff spot.
I mean, game 1 to me is the least important game of a best-of-7 series.
Okay, but let me ask you this then.
I mean,
let me ask you this.
Why would I focus on that? I mean,
Okay, if the Yankees lose
right.
game 1,
Yes.
can you imagine the scenario going around right now? The Yankees, the World Series favorite, loses the opener at home. Oh my gosh, Armageddon, overreaction. That's why the Yankees winning the opener was big.
Yeah, but it's just game 1. So
I know, but panic ensues.
Right.
If you're the World Series favorite and you lose the opener at home.
Listen, I understand it. You would like to win game 1, okay? It sets the series. You have the right momentum moving forward. I get all of it, right? It doesn't matter if you win game 1. That's all I'm saying. In a best-of-7, I wonder what the odds are of the teams who win game 1 that go on to win the series. Because I bet you it's like a coin toss. I bet you it's like 50%. Mike, you think it's greater than that?
I think, yeah, I do think it's greater than a coin
I would think it's high 50s.
I would say,
if I'm guessing.
I would argue close to 70%.
Oh, wow. That would be surprising.
70% of the teams who won game 1 go on to win a best-of-7
in that sport,
series.
Yeah, I would say it's a safe bet that more times than not, if you win game 1, you win the series.
But to answer your question, Greg, I start paying attention game 3 of the NLCS.
Okay.
Right. So if you can make it that far, I'll start paying,
Yeah.
I'll start paying attention.
So you're going to watch the next game?
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, you're off tonight. It switches back over to New York tomorrow. So
3 games at Citi Field. Yeah, I'd like to go to one, but, can't make that happen. Road trip? Group trip? What do you guys think?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's not what a casual sports fan does, huh? You can't. That's a casual sports fan will watch it maybe on the second TV with no sound.
A very serious fan would actually hop on a bird, attend the game.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're a serious fan now because it's game 3.
Listen, I was trying to make the larger point that I've watched baseball now for the last couple of days, and the game is sped up in a way where I could see myself coming back to baseball again during the regular season next year.
Yeah.
But I took a year or 2 off from baseball, and I'm not going to apologize for it.
don't apologize. It's fine.
I'm not. I mean,
so what are you thinking? You're thinking game 5? Game 3, 4, and 5, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Game 5?
I'm thinking
5 o'clock first pitch.
Yeah.
Come in here. You're out by, I don't know, 11 or so. Hop on a bird.
Yeah.
Go up to game 5.
You want to go with me?
All right, you buying?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, Dan is ultimately, but we still have the NFC if the season ended today. Kornhacky is out by the board. We'll get to him in just a second. But Greg, Dan is in California. He'll be back next week. Yesterday, Dan conducted an interview with Doug Emhoff. Do you know who Doug Emhoff is?
Sure, the perhaps future president's husband.
The second gentleman.
He is the first second gentleman ever. So Dan was out there. He spent about 20 minutes with him. The full interview is out on South Beach Sessions today. Let's play a clip from it.
you said that communication is key, but she couldn't communicate with you immediately to tell you that Joe Biden had stepped down, correct? You were busy in spin class, right?
That was right. So it was, I was in LA. It was during that weekend when all the planes were down because of the software glitch. So I had to spend an extra day in LA. I decided to go to a cycling class with some friends, and it was an hour class, and we were just chit-chatting. I had my phone in the Secret Service car, so I didn't have my phone. And then my friend's partner just showed me his phone with the letter from President Biden, and I'm like, gotta go, and just ran into the car, and there was my phone, literally, like, you could feel the steam, 7 or 8 messages, all with, where are you? Call Kamala. And it was a 1 minute or less conversation, which started with, where the F were you? I need you right now. And basically get to work. And I did.
You run out sweaty. Are you wearing the tight biking shorts? Do you have those clackety-clack spikes on, the whole thing? Or
I try not to do the tight biking shorts. So I just do like the long old school, Nike basketball shorts, which probably aren't great for spin class. But I was drenched in sweat. I took the clackety-clack shoes off, and the car wasn't exactly on the curb, so it was still a couple of 100 yards of old guy half running, trying to get to that car to jump on the phone and get in the mix.
All right, again, that full interview is out on South Beach Sessions today. Dan went out to L.A. to do a Zoom interview with Doug Emhoff.
Wow. Yeah.
But look at that lighting.
Oh, it's great.
Doug's trying to be happy and jovial there, and Dan's looking very serious.
Yes, he is.
It is interesting how much both parties are using podcasts the last few weeks. I'm being honest. Like, Trump's going on a bunch, Kamala's done a bunch, and now he's with Dan.
Why is that interesting to you or surprising to you?
I just think, I guess obviously they're trying to get votes, but it just seems like a choice because they haven't always done it. But it seems like the last couple months there's been like a real push to get out there.
It just seems with one candidate, Trump is going on podcasts that the audience largely is already voting for him. So I don't think anybody's actually, nothing over the last 8 years has seemingly changed anybody's mind. So
right.
They're going there because they can control the questions a little bit easier. Although I know Dan's already given voices to where he's a little bit trickier of a podcast, but this is all very thought out. They prefer this over a network sit-down interview where they'll be held accountable by the rules and regulations of true journalism.
Yeah, the Greg Cote show has reached out to Kamala. Her people haven't gotten back to us yet, but we're hopeful. So we'll see about that.
Greg, as a journalist, would you agree to that? Would you let them see the questions before you ask?
There are exceptions there, and that's a very good journalistic question. A couple of years ago, this is before Deion Sanders went to Colorado, I had an opportunity to get him on the podcast because, related to some Orange Blossom special he was game he was in, and he insisted that I refer to him as Coach Prime during the interview, and I didn't agree to do it, so we never had him on. I would make an exception to get someone like Doug Emhoff. Like I would agree to that because these people, they have so little time. That's why you only get them for 20 minutes. And of course they want to know what you're going to talk about. Of course they do. And understandably so. So yeah, I would make that journalistic exception.
We asked Matt Barnes about it because all the smoke had Kamala Harris on it. And we asked about how you were exposed as someone that's trying to pursue objectivity and journalism. And a lot of these podcasts have to ask themselves a question. Do we make it known to our audience? Do we just try to ride this and understand that the access to this person is something that the audience will largely favor more than having a no-holds-barred interview? Each podcast has to ask themselves that question.
Don't you think the audience, for the most part, is accepting of, okay, my favorite show wants to get this guest on, and the way they have to do it is by agreeing to let them see the questions first?
I think generally, yes. I think generally
yes.
Audiences are okay with that. I think you'll have a vocal portion of your audience that will try to call you out on that, and they're certainly well within their rights. It's just, like I said, generally people's minds are made up this late in the game. So I think it also falls into where people are just viewing the political landscape as well. But I would we're a different show now. If I were EP, I'd have my questions about it too, because I was very is very much a hardliner on we don't screen questions, but even occasionally certain guests would pop up that certain things are off the table. Then you go to your host, you ask, this thing is off the table. Are you at all interested in asking this person about that? Can you still manage doing an interview about that? If we do go forward with this interview, what is the messaging going to be? I don't think we were asking ourselves the same questions as, Call Her Daddy or other podcasts, Bussin' with the Boys or whatever. Like they all have different standards. Podcasts are a different game.
Yeah, not all podcast hosts are journalists. I actually listened to the Call Her Daddy interview because I was curious how it went, and I thought it was really, really well done. And there wasn't any gotcha questions or anything like that. It was clear that they agreed to make the conversation about women's reproductive rights, and it came across very strong from her. And I thought overall the questions and the answers were very, very informative. And if that's what you're trying to do as a campaign, is to inform people about what your policies are, then this is a pretty successful route of doing it. And I've read that the listenership for that audience is very spread across the entire country. The age demo's very young, which is a demographic that this campaign, I think, is trying really hard to reach. So I think it's probably a good strategy to get her on shows like that.
I also think you need to appreciate the candidate's position and the spot that they're potentially in. If you're interviewing Doug Emhoff without any holds barred, and you do have the gotcha question that results in an embarrassing answer, it goes viral, it becomes a national story less than a month before the election. The pitfalls are extreme if an interview like that doesn't go well for Doug Emhoff.
It's also part of most podcasts are pre-taped. It's been rare. Most of the stuff that we've done over the course of 20 years, 98% live. There have been a couple of times where we had an interview that was either pre-taped before this new era of the show that people had issues with, and we would have conversations with higher-ups and internally, how do we handle this? And sometimes the answer, more often than not, the answer is we're not changing this. Sorry you feel that kind of way. It's a failed attempt by public relations people, but they're doing their job too. This is a bad look. This is not a look that we prefer. Let's try to stop it. It's a delicate balance. This show's a little bit more unique in that the standards of the host in particular, given his journalism chops, as Jess outlined, we still kind of adhere to that.
Yes.
And also, it's just also what drives Dan. He doesn't have to be a conventional journalist to have those same principles. And I'm sure there have been people in the podcast industry that have passed on these opportunities because of that. There's all sorts of rumors that Joe Rogan is going to talk to one or maybe both of the candidates. Historically, he hasn't talked to people actually running for the office. He's talked to politicians before. He's talked to people that have been eventually gotten to run for higher offices, but legitimate candidates, he's kind of stayed away from that in his past.
Dan has been very consistent with that in terms of, no, you're not going to tell me what to ask, and who to ask and when I'm going to ask it. He has been consistent as far as that is concerned. Did I hear you correctly in saying that the stipulation that Deion Sanders had was you had to call him Coach Prime?
Yes.
And you said no to that?
Yeah.
What?
He's not my coach. It's a made-up nickname. I just wasn't willing to do it.
But if what separates you from getting Deion on your show or on your podcast or writing an article is you just have to call him Coach Prime, that seems pretty benign.
Well, he made people do that at Jackson State. He made journalists do that during his press conferences.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'd take it. I want to get Deion. I understand that, but
no, I'll admit I had second thoughts because he would have been a nice guest for my podcast.
I know.
I did have second thoughts, but I just at the time.
Strangest line ever drawn in the sand.
What's that?
Just you right there,
that's
nope,
what I'm
that's
saying.
too far.
Right.
Coach Prime can't do it. Really want him on my pod. Wait, I have to call him Coach Prime? Nope.
That's the way I felt. That's the decision I made at the time.
And really, all you have to do is introduce him as Coach Prime. Then you don't have to address him the rest of the time.
The ridiculous one in this scenario.
Thank you, Jess.
It's ridiculous to ask someone to call you that. I'm sorry.
Not only to ask, to insist.
It's
as
very
a prerequisite. Silly. Yeah, I agreed. I thought it was silly.
I mean, I understand why Greg did it, but I find it ridiculous to not do the interview because you have to call him Coach Prime. Just call him Coach Prime.
To me, it's something to have fun with. I'd ask him about it. Coach Prime, I've been told to call you that. Why do as opposed to being not doing the interview.
Okay.
Right.
This is
All right.
below my standard.
You,
Like, what?
you call him Deion and just see how quickly he's going to hang
I'm with
up,
you. It's
right?
ridiculous, but to just be like not doing it is just not.
Aren't you the producer? You could have
I don't even remember this.
suggested this.
It was a while ago. It was like early. It was whenever Jackson State was playing in the Orange Blossom Classic, which was a while ago. I'm not sure exactly when that would have been.
I want to ask Mike, as the former EP of this show, if Deion Sanders called in and the stipulation was Dan had to call him Coach Prime, your reaction would have been what?
I think, are we live and I'm finding this information out? I talked to Dan during one of the breaks. I say, this is one of the stipulations. Do you want to make a decision now? Do you want to make content out of it where we say, hey, we've been afforded the opportunity to speak with Coach Sanders? One of the stipulations is that we call him Coach Prime. We've also often crowdsourced that stuff.
Yes.
Do we go ahead and do that? We'd take a gauge, especially on something that's I'm with you, Greg. I think it's a ridiculous thing, but also at the heart of it, it's silly. Does this concession really mean that much to my convictions? I don't know.
Yes.
So I wouldn't have any problem crowdsourcing that.
It's the rare time where both sides are being ridiculous. He's being ridiculous for making you call him Coach Prime, and you, Greg, as much as I love you, are being ridiculous for not taking Deion Sanders because you had to call him Coach Prime.
Keep in mind, this is pre-Colorado Deion Sanders. When his
now you do it.
I think it's still a thing. I think it's still a thing that he insists. I thought you were initially. I was half paying attention. I thought you were talking about something that's in the news cycle because I've seen journalists talk about this. This Coach Prime thing. What I would do is I'd call him Coach Prime initially, and then just see how far I can take it afterwards.
You fire one off.
You gotta just call him Coach and see how that lands.
Yeah.
Just call him Prime. See how that lands.
No, you're right. In retrospect, I could have done that very easily. And I also could have made content out of it by saying, why do you insist on being called Coach Prime? In which case the interview might have ended right there. But
you should have had your demands. I'll call you Coach Prime. You call me
Mr. Cote.
Yeah, well, the difference is with Dan, as Mike alluded to, he absolutely would have made that content and would have made fun of Deion Sanders for doing that.
Yeah.
He might have just challenged Deion within the interview. Now, your people are telling me I have to call you Coach Prime. Why is that so important? Dan's a little bit different, though, than most podcast hosts for many different reasons.
Greg, are you interested in what would happen in the NFC if the season ended today?
Oh, my God. I've been wondering about that.
Okay, let's
How
go
do we
out.
find out?
Let's go out to Steve Kornacki.
Wow.
We are back in Kornacki's corner, Stugotz, and it's time to take a look at the NFC, led by VP candidate Tim Walz' Minnesota Vikings. They currently have a 93% chance to make the postseason at the end of the schedule, but right now they'd be the 1 seed. Let's take a look at the matchups. In the hunt, you have the Bears, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks. The Eagles in the swing state of Pennsylvania at the highest percent chance outside of the current playoff picture to make the postseason. But when we look at the matchups, you have the 49ers and the Lions, two complete teams looking to have a chance to compete here in the 4 and 5 seeds. Then, of course, we head up to Washington, D.C., where all of our presidential candidates hope to be. Those Washington Commanders taking on Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then, of course, a battle of the swing states. Atlanta's Falcons in Georgia, and then, of course, the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin. That's how things are looking over here in Kornacki's corner as the tie adjusts, and we will not see any level of tie come the postseason.
Thank you, Kornacki.
Kind of an admission to make.
Yeah.
I've kind of become a Bucs fan.
Because of Baker.
Organically, yeah. I'm watching them. Anytime the games are on TV, I find myself rooting for them. And
he's a gamer, man.
He is. Did you see him running 50 yards downfield, throwing a lead block? It was great.
I love him. I love watching him play. I cannot believe the Browns are stuck with Deshaun Watson when they had Baker Mayfield. It's amazing. But he is fun to watch.
You can believe anything bad that goes that happens to that organization, though.
The Browns,
of course, very few precious organizations can find a way to blow this up as badly as the Cleveland Browns did. They had a quarterback that set rookie passing records, that won a playoff game at Pittsburgh, and they pushed him out the door.
I got a wide receiver.
I did something really stupid on Sunday.
Yeah.
I tried to rush soup season in Miami. I ended up eating
What?
soup at my table, just sweating because it was so hot out, and I was eating soup. But now we're getting a little cold front, and I think it might finally be almost actual soup season here.
Really?
By cold front, I mean like 82.
What was the soup?
It was a Italian wedding soup.
Oh.
This
With
is
meatballs.
hilarious to me
like
because
it.
as somebody who's lived in South Florida my entire life,
Yep.
I have no idea about soup season. For me, I can eat soup like on the hottest day of the year. If I'm at a restaurant, I'll take a cup of soup in any weather.
I literally thought I had a fever. I was eating the soup and I was like, I'm so hot right now. Why is it so hot?
I eat soup year round too, but I
Yeah.
have a deep appreciation for soup season, and I celebrate. I celebrate it by cooking more soups.
I love
I
soup.
love
Yeah.
making soups.
When is the official start of soup season? Is there a
Yes, the official start of soup season is the morning that you wake up and you walk outside and you feel a crisp in the air.
Oh, really?
That's when soup season starts.
That seems unofficial, but I understand what you're saying.
No, it's very
Right.
official. When
Right.
you walk outside and you take a deep inhale and you say, it's football season. That's soup season also.
Mhm.
When Andy Reid's glasses stop fogging up.
Soup season. Yeah.
Soup season.
Soup is fun to cook.
Greg,
Is
you,
it?
you used to give us like soup recipes.
Soup tips.
That's true. Soup of the
Soup
day.
of the
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, I did.
What happened to that?
Soups of the
That's a
day.
good question. Yeah, we'll bring it back, Jack. No, we will. I love. I want everybody to tell me their favorite soup.
Matzo ball.
You like matzo ball?
I love
Christopher
it,
just had
yeah.
matzo ball the other day.
Well, thank
How
you
do we
for
how do we
revealing
feel how do we feel about
Putting
like,
it out there, huh?
ethnic foods? Because for me, it's like pho and ramen are my favorite types of soups. But are we counting those as soups?
I'll eat an entire thing of
No.
ramen without the spoon. I just eat all the I get the liquid when it's, but I don't really use the spoon at all.
I made an
for ramens.
unbelievable yellow curry, spicy chicken noodle soup the other day.
Wow.
And I also thought I had a fever because I jumped the gun on soup season, but this was delicious.
Right.
So you
I
can
would
relate.
say, you know how baking is your core culinary skill? I think souping.
Soup is yours.
Souping is mine.
Yeah,
I'm the
soup.
kind of house where we always have a stock on the. We have a little
On the
stock
pot, on the
going.
stove?
We will
Yeah.
catch a fish. We'll make a little fish stock.
Homemade
we'll go
stock,
to
you
chicken.
have
He'll make
to.
a little chicken stock.
Yeah.
We always have frozen stock in the freezer.
So what
Right.
you have to
Lots of
Thanksgiving.
stock. Any soup is anything you eat with a spoon. That is, it can be cold, but it's generally warm.
Yeah, if you can slurp it, it's soup.
What is your
Oh, yeah.
favorite soup? Since you asked the question and no one answered.
You know, it varies. It goes back and forth. Right now, my current favorite soup is sausage and lentil.
Really?
I love lentils.
I thought for sure you were going to say clam chowder.
No, I mean that's in my top 10 for sure. But is chowder a soup? There's
Yeah.
a controversy
Yes.
there.
Chowder's
Yeah?
a soup.
Okay.
What is
Yeah.
the controversy with chowder?
Some people don't think chowder is a soup.
Do you
Who
think
are
it's
those-
closer to a stew?
Who are those
Yeah.
people?
Oh,
Right.
wow, a stew.
Oh, stew like a chili.
Yeah, like chili,
Stugotz?
beef stew.
A beef
Depending on
stew,
the
yeah.
consistency, if the chili's a little bit on the thin side, you could argue that's a soup.
I love an Italian wedding soup. I'm so jealous that you had one
Oh,
because
yeah. So good.
anything goes with that thing. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Tiny
minestrone.
pastas.
Tiny pasta, it's a mix match.
That's
Love tiny
honestly the
pasta.
biggest game. If your soup has a little tiny
Tiny
pasta in
pasta.
it, I love it.
Chicken and
So
stars.
good.
Sometimes you can throw rice in there too.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Let's get nuts.
But
This
you
is
could,
it's a wedding.
but how come you don't make
And a
that soup? Like you control the soup that you make and then eat. So
To
if
me,
you love
there-
it so much,
To
I mean,
me, like your imagination is the only thing that can limit you when it comes to Italian wedding soup.
is that right?
Yeah. There's spaghetti. There's rigatoni.
I don't want spaghetti in my soup.
Dude, I can do whatever with it. It's my wedding.
It's your soup.
Chicken noodle. I mean, that's basically chopped up spaghetti.
I mean, chicken noodle is right. It's like of a medal stand of soups. Chicken noodle would be the gold medal winner, right?
I don't know if I'm putting it on a medal stand, but I'd say it's like in the Hall of Fame.
A soup hall of fame.
Yeah.
Oh, guy.
Wow.
French
Yeah,
onions
first
got
guy.
in
A
there. yeah.
little coconut milk in that thing. You kidding me?
Oh, make it a curry?
The
Tom
best,
Kagai.
the best tiny pasta for soup is ditalini. I don't know if any of you have had that. It's so tiny, it's wonderful.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like the little tubes,
Yes,
right?
but
the
tiny.
little tiny tubes.
Yeah.
We're the only ones. Yeah.
Yeah, but diddolini is objectively hilarious.
Anyone?
For a pasta.
Does anyone agree with me that French onion soup's a little overrated?
It is
How
overrated.
dare you?
Once you get past
I
the,
disagree.
once you get past the cheese,
It's hard to eat. It's
It's
like
great.
I gotta get my hand involved.
You're
Soup
getting
Hall
it
of
just for the
Famer,
cheese.
First ballot.
I have to like
Possibly my
First
favorite.
ballot.
I have to
Hall of
like
Famer.
rip pieces of
Unanimous.
cheese off and then like put it on top of the my hands.
It's overrated,
Have
yeah.
to get too involved.
I'm not gonna-
I don't want my hands.
I don't have
involved
to
with
defend
the
it just
soup.
because you're bad at eating it.
Yeah,
I would say the
exactly.
cheese is a Hall of Famer. The soup
Let me
itself
see
is
you
not.
eat it without
No.
using your hands.
I would gladly let you watch me eat French onion soup.
Yeah, bring it on
I
over.
guarantee
I can step up to the challenge.
You are full of it if you're not using your left hand to like rip off some of the cheese.
So what if I do?
I'm just saying that's
So
gross.
what if I do? That's part of the charm.
But I'm
But
just
once
saying,
you get
it
to
goes
the
right
broth,
back into the soup.
once you get
just-
to the broth, it's nasty.
acted
The
like
broth is
What?
nasty.
I don't like
It's
it.
an onion
It's
sauce.
my
What are you
soup.
talking about?
It's my soup.
No, the broth is fine.
Fine.
Oh my
Hall
god.
of Fame soup. Unbelievable.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous.
I shouldn't need my extra hand involved to eat soup.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, receiver.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Ryan, and I want to tell you about two of my favorite things, football and Miller Lite. And when you combine the two, that makes for one heck of a Miller time. See, Miller Lite has great taste, but is also less filling. And football, well, it's just spectacular from start to finish. You put those two things together, you've already carved out a perfect day. Miller Lite keeps things simple with undebatable quality, great taste, and only 96 calories. It's a beer that strips away everything that you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that actually tastes like beer. Make your game time taste like Miller time. Tastes great and is less filling. Let it be both. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan. Or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.